Welcome to Combat Sports Talk, a podcast dedicated to UFC and Bellator discussion, the MMA community, and combat sports in general. I'm your host, Ryan Smith, and joining me this week is George G-Money Stallworth. How are you, sir?
Dude, I'm doing great. Much better than the last introduction I just
got. Yeah, we had a little bit of technical difficulty. I forgot to turn on the mic, so I went live, and I'm basically muted for the first 3 minutes of the show. It's crazy.
Dude, it looked like an old school Chinese karate flick. Literally, I saw the mouth moving, no words, and then it was like, it's coming at some point, and then nothing.
Well, you know, right. I said, what I was saying is that it's been a long time since it's just been mano a mano, just two people, because normally we have the full crew, but Gaethje is sick, and we got John, who hadn't slept in 3 days. And so
I was gonna say I thought he was sick too. But yeah. Gaethje walking around with the coronavirus or what? What's going on?
I don't know. Listen, I don't want to put anything out there, but he said he wasn't feeling well. He was giving us a heads up, and we wish him well and hope he gets back to feeling like himself again.
I'm gonna call him out. I think he got a date tonight. I'm gonna call him out.
Well, he'll have to dispute that on a later show. But if he does appear because if he's sick, he could have still just showed up in the audience.
Yeah,
he could have.
Like, hey, I hear you guys talking about me right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think he out on the date.
Yeah, we see you, Sawabona. We see you.
And so, what happened to John? What's going on with him?
Well, he said that he hadn't slept in like 48 hours or something like that. He said he hadn't been to sleep. So I don't know if he's got something going on at work or what's going on with John Keys.
Now that one is even a more reasonable. That sounds honest. Hey, dude, I just haven't slept. I'm tired. I'm not gonna make it tonight. Gaethje over here, man. I'm sick. I'll be right over, baby.
Yeah, and who knows, man? With John Keys, you don't know, man. He might have found himself down a rabbit hole of new trivia information. We come back next week, and he's be like, "Did you know that there really is an end of the internet?"
We're gonna have some new QAnon facts next week.
Oh man, I sure hope so. John Keys is the guy that knows all the stuff. So we got a lot to talk about in this show. Where we are is we've had a month worth of fights on Fight Island. I think it was in total 5 weeks worth of fights if you include next week or this coming weekend. Right. And so we've had 2 pay-per-views. We've had 3 fight nights. It's been a lot of fights and a lot of great fights. I know a few months ago I said that the UFC was just really trying to hit that magic number. I think it's like 42 fights or something like that they got to put on in a year. They were like 27 behind. And I questioned whether or not they were going to be able to put on really good cards, given the fact that they needed to string so many fight cards together. But I think they've done an amazing job of putting good fights back to back to back in what is effectively a bubble, like what we're seeing in Abu Dhabi.
Dude, what that tells you is we've been getting played before.
How so?
Literally. I mean, think about it in terms of if you've been able to put on all these amazing fights now in this bubble and jump through all these hoops to make this thing happen just for ESPN. Why weren't you doing that from the get-go? Back when you were on Fox Sports or even in the transition before the contract really just hit stride. Where were all these amazing fights then? Why is it we get it now when you're under pressure to, you get what I'm saying? I know pressure will bust a pipe, pressure makes diamonds, all that. But what it tells me is we've been getting played before.
There have been some weak cards in years past, but maybe, coronavirus made them stronger. You got all these fighters who owe
the UFC got
fights
vaccinated.
Yeah, they had to. Look, they refused to get to catch the itis, because what's going on is you got all these fighters who hadn't fought. They owe each fighter 3 fights a year, and you lost basically 3-4 months trying to get everything ready for Fight Island. And so you've got a backlog of great fighters who absolutely need to fight to make money.
Regardless, there have been some absolutely phenomenal fights.
Yes.
I'm happy with the product that we're seeing.
Yeah.
And I wish it had been like this all along. Not only that, man, it's really making some of the other promotions step up their game. Like LFA just had some really good fights this past weekend. I don't know if you got to watch any of those. Bellator has been putting up. Bellator opened up in Paris. What was it? The weekend before last.
Yes, they did.
MMA in Paris, just got legalized.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about the main event of Bellator on the show. That would be Bellator 249. It was headlined by Chris Cyborg. Chris Cyborg recently won their women's featherweight title, and so this is going to be one that is, she's Chris Cyborg. We're going to talk a little bit about her. So we got one of our friends out there. His name is Lepido Light 2009. You're gonna have to give me a pronunciation of that, homie. I just to make sure I'm pronouncing your name right. He said he watched the LFA fights. He said Baby John's boy. So I didn't catch the fights. I'm about to go back and watch it. For so long I have only been a subscriber of ESPN Plus, and so because I started doing the judging methodology with all the scoring and stuff like that, I went back and signed up for Fight Pass so I could go back and watch some of the fights in the fight library. And so that means I can watch LFA now. I can watch some of these other regional promotions because they're all on Fight Pass. So I can go back and watch some of those.
Well, one of my teammates was on that LFA card this past weekend. Oh, really? John Tao.
Okay.
And unfortunately, he didn't get the victory, but he's humble in his defeat and he's already talking about how he plans to come back a better fighter, man. He's one of those guys. He's just on the cusp of doing some great things. He just needs a couple more pieces to put it together, and I think we're going to see him shining in under the big bright lights at some point. So.
All right. Well, I'm actually looking forward to a day when LFA comes back to Dallas. Like, they were fighting just down the street from our house, and we didn't go. And well, I think you might have gone, but I didn't go. I want to go next time. But they're
little known fact, before they became LFA, they were, I think, LFC or
LFC,
I can't remember.
Correct. Yeah.
But they actually also put together a kickboxing promotion.
Really?
It was LK1 or something like that. I know they had at least one event, but there might have been some others directly after that. And these were all striking events, man. And like prior to their merger, they had some good ideas already going. I hope they continue with that in what they're doing now, man. And it's good to see that they're on Fight Pass. A lot of these smaller promotions, a great thing is that the UFC will promote them by putting them on Fight Pass. Mm-hmm. And little known to a lot of the other individuals in the MMA community, the UFC is putting money in these fight promotions' pockets to go ahead and help promote their fights. Basically, the UFC is using them like feeder organizations. Like, here, we're going to give you, Fight Pass status. You'll be on the show. We'll put you up on TV or whatever the case. And we're going to put some money in the promotions' pockets in order to fund some of these promotions to make the quality better.
And here's the really cool thing is that it's working. Remember, we raved, and I blew the hype train horn for Brandon Royval. Brandon Royval was an LFA champion, and now he's in the UFC. He's like 2-0, and I can't wait to see what he does next. So the relationship between LFA and the UFC is definitely one that is profitable for both of them, and I can't wait to see what else comes out of that LFA world.
Well, I'm telling you, it's not just LFA. The UFC has put in a lot of different promotions. You've seen it in Fight Pass. If you go and look in Fight Pass, there are all kind of promotions on there. Mm-hmm. And typically what happens is if the UFC is putting them on Fight Pass, they're also putting some money in their pocket to help make their promotions better, right, and to bring better fighters in.
Well, and you know what that also does is that locks Bellator, that locks ONE FC out. Right? Because you know,
I didn't say all that.
It's got to be, but it's got to be some level of exclusivity, right? the UFC's got to have right of first refusal.
Well, I think anyone in MMA today, if they had a choice between, UFC or some other promotion, such as Bellator or One Championship or something like that, yeah, the odds would say I'm going to go with the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think that the UFC is making it exclusive that, hey, if you came out of LFA or anything like that, I got first dibs on you. Because you got to think about it. There's a lot of fighters in these smaller promotions that we'll never hear of, but yet they make it to other platforms. So
yeah, we'll definitely have to see. But speaking of fighters making it to the big show, UFC Fight Night Ortega versus the Korean Zombie. Let's talk about it in the official decision. This is the official decision. This is where we look at the fights from Saturday night. And so we had, 5 fights on the card. This was a great card all the way through, but definitely on the main card. The first fight of the night was Thomas Almeida, who was making his triumphant return versus Jonathan Martinez. Kelechi, unfortunately, is not on the show. If he was, everybody would be drinking because this was a Factory X show. They had probably 3, maybe 4 fighters on the entire card. Jonathan Martinez,
do remember him saying something like that.
Yeah, was a Factory X fighter, and he defeated Thomas Almeida via unanimous decision. Judges had that fight 30-27 straight across the board. I had it 29-28 in favor of Jonathan Martinez. I thought Almeida made it, won the second round and made the third round a very close one. But it was a great fight. Almeida has always been kind of a really great, striker, but he could also bring the fight to the ground if he needed to. Whereas Martinez was just very calm and collected the entire time, and he was able to weather the storm, land big punches all throughout the fight. And that's really why I gave him the nod 29-28 in this fight. But the judges had it 30-27. All of us were unanimous in that decision. Claudio,
you make it sound like this fight was a lot closer than the judges make it appear with that 3 rounds.
I felt like it was. I felt like Jonathan Martinez won the first round outright. He landed some big shots. I think he knocked down Almeida at the end of the first round. In the second, I felt like Almeida had done enough to be able to win that round. Now, granted, I was watching the fight as a fan and not using the Combat Sports Talk scoring methodology, which is on our website. Have to plug that.
Plug it again. Let me hear it again.
So the Combat Sports Talk judging methodology. It's on our website, www.combatsportstalk.com. But it is, watching the fight as a judge and watching the fight as a fan is completely different. So tonight, usually what I'll do is I'll watch all the fights as a fan, and if there's a fight that is controversial, which there was one in the prelims, there's this new Polish fighter who ended up losing his fight, and people were upset that he lost. They felt like he had won the fight. So I plan to go back and watch that one and actually score it and judge it. I'll put it out on the webpage and give you my assessment of that fight. But I felt like this fight was a bit closer than what the judges' scorecard said. They said 30-27. I had it 29-28, with the third round being really, really close.
Okay. Next fight up was Claudio Silva and James Krause.
James Krause. And so this is one that was also interesting. I also had this 29-28 in favor of Krause. But Krause defeated Claudio Silva via unanimous decision. Krause had the first 2 rounds won. He was really just outclassing Claudio Silva. Silva was throwing these big looping right hands, really kind of out of control punches, wanting to get the fight to the ground. But James Krause was moving very adeptly. He was landing his strikes, landing big strikes very cleanly, easy to see. But what happened is he catches a leg kick in the second round, and it blows his knee out. So he's got to go the third round with a bum knee. And it appears as though Silva knew that this was a bad knee, because he's throwing kicks to it. And every time he lands a kick to that knee, Krause goes to the ground. Now, Krause was able to fight through it and make it competitive. But because of those big shocks that he took early to the leg and it was clearly debilitating because he had a bum knee. I would have given the third round to Claudio Silva, making it a 29-28. Judges had that 30-27. So we're still unanimous in the decision. I don't have any qualms about it, but James Krause is now in a position to really start picking his shots about who he wants to fight in the UFC next.
Yeah, he has made his way up that ladder. I still don't think he's ranked though, is he?
I don't have on the run sheet. I don't have his rank on the ladder. I don't know, but if he's not ranked yet, Claudio Silva definitely not ranked. So he's probably not ranked yet. But I would assume that the next thing on Krause's list is a ranked fighter once he heals up.
Okay.
Modestus.
I'm gonna leave this next name to you to pronounce. Yeah, definitely.
Modestus Buckowskis.
Buckowskis. That's not bad. When you look at the phonetic, the spelling of it phonetically, yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Buckowskis.
Yeah, Modestus Buckowskis versus Jimmy Croot. Now, Jimmy Croot is an Australian dude, and man, if you were to watch a fight, for those people who didn't happen to catch this card, if you don't watch any other fight, okay, Buckowskis. Oh, wow. So I thank you for the correct pronunciation. There you go. Buckowskis. So I put the emphasis on the wrong syllable. Go back and watch this fight for real. Like, anybody who hasn't seen this card, go watch this fight. Jimmy Croot, they're battling, and then Croot catches him with this combo. As I think Buckowskis is throwing throwing a kick, and Croot catches him with like a right, knocks him off his feet, and as he's trying to get up, he catches him again with the left, which knocks him against the cage, and then he catches him again with another right. It's just like, dude is sitting on with his back to the cage, knocked out. The judge is waving it off, and Croot comes and sits next to him and like takes a highlight picture before he gets up.
You know how we give props to fighters who make adjustments like in the middle of a fight or during the fight and things like that.
Right.
Well, I had to give props. You made an adjustment in the middle of that conversation in the pronunciation of that name, and like that was fight worthy right there, bro.
Hey, well, I gotta give a shout out to the audience tonight, because they're hitting us with comments popping on the screen and giving me the correct pronunciation. That's great. One would say that I should do my homework and make sure that I'm pronouncing the names correctly without needing the help, but it is nice to have the support. So shout out to you guys.
But you do your homework for the most part, and like you've at least worked on the pronunciation. Meanwhile, Kelechi and I over here just butchering names left and right.
Yeah, but see, now that I look at it, yeah, I can see how it's Buckowskis. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
All right.
In the co-main event,
I have to introduce you to Buakow.
Buakow, who's that? Is that a Muay Thai fighter?
Gonna talk. I can't believe you just blasphemed out your mouth like that. Who is that? Wait till we get off air.
You know, the funniest thing that ever happened is I was at a soccer game, and I was walking with my oldest, who was probably 5 or 6 years old, and she had just finished playing a soccer game, and I was like, you know what? You were like Michael Jordan on the field, and she was like, "Who's Michael Jordan?" And I'm like, no, you cannot ask that question. That means I am a bad father. How long ago was this? This was almost 10 years ago. So this was
still. Oh, that's even worse.
Yeah.
10 years ago, she didn't know who Michael Jordan was.
Well, it's fair to say that The Last Dance hadn't come out yet, and Michael Jordan had been retired for a good maybe 5 or 7 or 8 years. So
even worse, because like I'm sure she's probably had a pair of Jordans on her feet.
No.
Or at least have seen or witnessed Jordans out in the community.
I know. No.
I forgot we live in Allen.
Yeah.
No. Anyway, that's another topic.
In the co-main event of the evening, Jessica Andrade defeated Katlyn Chookagian via TKO with 5 seconds left in the first round. The body shot she landed on Katlyn Chookagian was one where it was like, it was instant, it was immediate, and it was intense. Like the moment she landed, because they were grappling up against the cage, and as Katlyn Chookagian was trying to break off, her rib cage was exposed, and I swear Andrade hit her right on that part of the rib cage, where the ribs get a little pointy, they kind of separate a little bit. She caught her right there, and Chookagian pushes off, and she's holding herself, and you can just see her face is all contorted, like, oh, and that was it. I mean, at that point, that's blood in the water. And Andrade chases after her, throws a flying knee, catches her again with another body shot, and Chookagian just collapses. They wave off the fight, and little bitty Jessica Andrade, who is 5'1.5", fighting a 5'9" Chookagian. David and Goliath happened, and David won again. Now, here's the thing. Katlyn Chookagian is the #1 ranked flyweight women's fighter. This was Jessica Andrade's first fight at this weight. She dropped her in the first round, so now everyone's talking about maybe she should jump the line. We talk about it. We complain all the time that fighters come up from other weight classes. They skip in front of everybody and they get a title shot. They should fight somebody in the weight class. And here you have Jessica Andrade fights the number one contender for the title, drops her in the first round. Does she deserve a title shot?
I love how you make your case for points without making it seem like you're making the case for it. Like other people are saying that maybe she should cut the line. But really what you're saying is, dude, I think she's a bad mama jamma. She needs to be fighting for the title on the next card, blah, blah, blah. Is that not what you really mean?
Hey, listen, I can either confirm or deny my position.
If the answer to your question should be yes, and it's anything other than yes, the answer is no, or vice versa.
Well, the thing is I would be interested in seeing that fight. Yes, I think she should jump the line. Because when I'm thinking about, who's really going to challenge Valentina Shevchenko, I don't see anybody there that could really challenge her. The only person that had a legitimate claim was Katlyn Chookagian, and guess what? She got dropped with 2 body shots. So let's get a former champion.
Jessica Andrade is ready for that smoke?
Listen.
So if the answer to your question should be yes, it is anything other than yes, the answer is no.
Okay, I got to say it like this. The only person who's ready for Shevchenko is Amanda Nunes. That's the only person that I think really has a shot. Now, Zhang Weili, she is probably number 2, but I want to see her fight. I want to see her fight somebody else. I want to see her clear out that 115-pound division. So let's let Jessica Andrade have a shot at it. I mean, nobody has been a wrestler and a grappler that Shevchenko has faced yet. No one has the strength and the power that Andrade is bringing to the octagon. So let's see what this striker does.
Andrade's hype train right now.
Nope. No.
Oh, we don't get the hype train.
That's a firm no.
You're not on her hype train.
No, against
dropped the woman with 5 seconds
Shevchenko.
left with body shots.
Against Shevchenko. Against Shevchenko.
Are you on just? Let's take Shevchenko out of the equation. Are you now on the hype train that is Jessica Andrade at 125?
No.
Why? You said she needs a title shot, bruh.
Because personally, I don't feel like there's really anybody else who's risen to the top at 125 that should have a title shot. I mean, who else are you going to put in there? Shevchenko's sitting there cutting pomegranates on boats on Instagram. Lady needs a fight. Okay? All right? She's tired of posing with AK-47s.
Yeah.
You know, like, let's get her
She
back
like
in the ring.
just do a movie or something. Yeah, like
Yeah, she's doing movies and stuff. Like, that's talent being wasted. Let's put her in the ring and let's see, because they, you know what, the adage is true. Styles make fights.
mm.
And so we have been seeing striker versus Shevchenko. Let's put a pure wrestler, pure grappler in there and see what happens.
Have you seen Valentina, what she does to people on the ground and like her wrestling transitions?
She is a complete fighter. I'm not even gonna pretend.
I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page here. I don't know why you trying to send Jessica Andrade after that smoke like that.
Hey, all I know is that I'm excited about seeing Andrade fight Shevchenko, because Andrade has seen strikers. She's fought Rose Thug No Hair Namajunas. You've seen her fight. You've seen her fight Jessica Joanna Youngjae.
115.
Those are pure strikers.
Joanna
Youngjae went head to head against Shevchenko. Went 5 rounds.
That was striker versus striker, but
striker versus striker.
We just talked about styles make,
right.
So Jessica, who is a 115er, really is going to step in at 125 and try to take down the most decorated striker she's ever faced.
Listen, the way she took down Katlyn Chookagian, who was towering over her, like literally she picked her up and dumped her back on the ground and took side control at the same time. Like, so it's possible.
I don't know if you remember, there was this fight a couple of weeks ago, Israel Adesanya versus Paulo Costa.
Yes.
Yeah, that's Jessica Andrade and Valentina Shevchenko.
You know what? I enjoyed Costa versus Adesanya.
I bet you did. The ending of it, like the softcore porn.
No, that was uncalled for. But I did enjoy, like I said before, styles make fights. That was one of those types of things where you've got basically a tank versus a tomahawk missile, guided missile.
A tank who touts his jiu-jitsu black belt and then tosses a white belt at his opposition.
Yeah, and I felt like, and I don't know if I said this on the last show or not, but I felt like that was a missed opportunity for Israel Adesanya, because he had rocked Paulo Costa, and he was clearly could have his way with him, as we saw. That is the time you choke Paulo Costa out. You pull in a rear naked choke, you choke him out, because then there's nothing he can say. He got rocked, basically knocked out, and then choked out by a guy he threw a white belt in jiu-jitsu at. That would have been perfect for me. That would have been fitting. But it didn't happen that way. I look forward to seeing Jessica Andrade come up against Valentina Shevchenko. I hope they put that fight together. It'll be an interesting one. I don't think anyone's going to give her a snowball's chance, but that's all a fighter needs is one punch. That's what happened.
I think she's definitely ready for a title fight like that. But honestly, at that weight, I like to see her maybe get 1 or 2 more bouts under her belt, just to build her confidence and to give her some prep time for Valentina, man. Because like that is a tall milkshake to drink.
Milkshake, huh? Bringing all the boys to the yard, right? Is that what?
Yeah.
All right. In the main event of the evening, Brian Ortega versus the Korean Zombie, better known as Chan Sung Jung. Brian Ortega just worked the Korean Zombie for a unanimous decision, 50-45. I had that fight. There was one round that was close, but still, I saw it for 50-45. There was a spinning elbow in the second round, and it was interesting because Korean Zombie was like, I don't remember rounds 3, 4, and 5. Clearly, the fight could have been stopped at in the second round with the spinning elbow, which of course was reminiscent of the Yair Rodriguez knockout, where he caught Korean Zombie with that elbow, that backwards elbow, and knocked him out that way. So it was a great fight. We haven't seen a Brian Ortega like this. Before he got beat by Max Holloway, he was pretty much a one-dimensional fighter. We knew that he was trying to get this fight to the ground, that he was going to try to wrap his arms around you and choke you out T-City style. The fight that he had against Frankie Edgar, which qualified him for the title shot, was a pretty shocking knockout. Like, I don't think people were looking for him to knock Frankie Edgar out the way that he did, but we saw the gap in his striking when he faced a pure striker in Max Holloway. And Max Holloway had him walking around, had Brian Ortega walking around like he was, like he was drunk.
On stilts.
Yeah, I mean,
on stilts.
Yeah, I mean, it caused us to have a protracted 3-week-long debate as to whether or not they should have called the fight for Max Holloway earlier. This is where we would be drinking, because John Keys would have to be telling us that he, as a Gracie fighter, has to die in the cage. There is no surrender, no retreat, no surrender for a Gracie fighter. So yeah, this is a brand new Brian Ortega. He has jettisoned his entire team except for Rener Gracie. Everyone else is new, and they brought a new fighter into the ring, and you can tell he is a striker now. And if he's a striker and he continues to retain his skills at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, you're looking at a more complete fighter than we've ever seen.
I'd like to know who his striking coach is right now, because honestly, I want to go back, give him kudos, and I'd like to study, some of the things that he had him doing, man. I didn't get to see this actual fight, but from the clips I have seen, you could tell his striking has gotten so much better. But that's also by default, just ring time does that as well. Mm-hmm. We've talked about that before, why Khabib might want to necessarily strike with someone when he should easily be taking people to the ground, because he wants that bump in his skill level, because he gets to work things during an actual fight. Mm-hmm. So,
well, there is one thing that for the ladies who follow MMA and follow the UFC, they would have been disappointed to see that the locks, I don't want to call them golden locks, but the beautiful flowing hair that Brian Ortega has flaunted in the past was completely gone. All of it shaven off and donated to cancer patients. And he was really struck. He talked about why he shaved his head, and it was one of those things where he came to this realization as he was cutting weight. And you've talked in the past about the suffering that you do to your body in order to cut weight. And he was thinking about these cancer patients who are taking medicines like chemotherapy and radiation and things like that, and they are losing weight and they are suffering through these treatments. They are losing their hair, and he's doing it for his sport. And he said at that point, let's just shave off my hair. And he did, donated it to, I guess, Locks of Love or something like that. He says the hair will grow back. So I thought that was a great gesture on this weekend. It's also Hispanic Heritage Month. And so there was a wonderful clip of Brian Ortega just speaking about how important Hispanic Heritage Month is to him. And he's speaking in Spanish. And they also had Jonathan Martinez speaking about, being a Mexican and Salvadorian heritage. And so I thought that was pretty cool that some of the fighters got to speak up and speak out about their heritage and what the recognition that it means to them to have the UFC do that.
I'm gonna hold my thoughts for after the bell.
I thought you might.
I don't remember the UFC hyping up Black History Month really very much.
We would have to go back, but that was in the middle of COVID, so the UFC didn't.
No, it wasn't actually. COVID wasn't until like March. We're talking February.
Okay, we'll have to go back and look. I know that.
I like it. Bro, I love you. I'm going to call you out now. I love how you start defending the UFC and Dana White and President Trump. But
listen, I just don't remember. I don't remember them doing it. I'd like to think that they did. I know that there was a little Deontay Wilder.
I think.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
The Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury fight was happening at the same time, and I know that they made a big to-do about Black History Month at the time. So it would have been odd if the UFC hadn't, but We can go back. I mean, that's a verifiable fact. We can go back and check that and see. We can be angry about that together.
I remember there was like some little small shout outs or whatever, but it wasn't given its proper due. Let's just leave it at that.
All right.
The fact that we're here and can't remember what they did, that speaks volumes, because we are MMA junkies. We are fight junkies.
Yeah. I mean, but
come on.
Come on. I'm just saying.
Colby Covington, yeah, let me hear it.
No, listen.
Jorge Masvidal, let me hear it.
Listen, I hate to do this to you.
You want me to call out some of your other homeboys?
I hate to do this to you.
Please do it.
Who fought in February?
Who fought in February?
Yeah.
Actually, I think is he fight in February as well?
You don't know. You don't know.
Just the thought. I don't.
This is it. Yeah. You see, that's my point. It's not that I'm defending. It's just that we don't know. We don't remember what happened in February because that was so long ago.
I'll tell you. I think Walt Harris fought in February. I think I remember that. No, he was March too. He was doing COVID.
Yeah.
Okay.
See, he's doing COVID.
Right.
Yeah. It was empty audience in March. There you go. No, I'm just kidding. But we should go back. I mean, let's audit it. We have recency because it is Hispanic Heritage Month. They did do something, and so I mean, it wasn't like they did a big to do. They didn't turn everything, they didn't go stereotypical with it and make everything mariachi bands and sombreros and everything like that. They did have just kind of two fighters who were on the card speaking about, their heritage. We can definitely go back. We know that the UFC did do something small for the summer protest with George Floyd, so we know they did that. Anyway, we are way off topic here. Let's talk about some of the headlines that are making waves in this week in Finding the Angles. Is Finding the Angles. This is where we talk about the headlines that are making waves in the UFC world this week, not February.
You already know what I'm over here doing, don't you?
I know, but see, we're gonna have to go back to Fight Pass and actually watch the cards that were in February and see if they didn't do a little special or something like that.
Jones versus Reyes was February.
Oh, see, that was huge. Huge fight. We didn't remember. That was long years ago.
Adesanya was the next pay-per-view event, so I wasn't far off. But yeah. Jones versus Reyes was February 8th.
All right, there we go.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. Dana White has stated that all the talk about Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier 2 is true. All they got to do is sign the contracts.
I thought I saw something else on the news today where Dana was like, hey, this fight's not happening.
No, what he said was, this fight is not happening at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas.
Oh.
Yeah, Conor McGregor's like, yes, I'm fighting Dustin Poirier. I'm ready to do it, and we're going to do it at Cowboy Stadium in Arlington. I know the owner, and he will be glad to have it with fans and Dana White's like, are you crazy? This is still COVID. We're going to do it either at Fight Island or we're going to do it at the Apex Arena. We're not going to do it in any crazy venue. I'm not risking my company because you want to be Conor McGregor. But he did say that because Conor would not be a co-main event to a fight, he actually did call UFC or call ESPN and secured a special date for Conor that would be January 23rd. So we would see the rematch between Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier, January 23rd, 2021. I would be excited to see it because I personally believe that in the first fight, Conor clipped him in the back of the head and we didn't actually see what Dustin Poirier could do. This is a whole new Dustin Poirier, and I'd be excited to see what he can do against the Conor McGregor.
What weight class is this going on at?
That is an interesting thing. That I believe that they haven't decided the weight class yet. One would assume that it would be 155, but
or not,
or it could be at 170 because neither one of them wants to cut weight.
So yeah, that being said, Conor's fought at 170 multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Dustin hasn't.
What I'm seeing in the audience is that it's at 170. I didn't think that it had been declared yet. Conor wants it at 170. Okay. I think that it should be at 155. And the reason why it should be at 155 is because, lo and behold, Khabib Nurmagomedov is like, if they fight at 155 and Conor wants a rematch, I might be willing to give him a rematch, which is a huge change from when he said that Conor would have to beat 10 people before he would fight Conor McGregor again.
I think Conor beats Dustin fairly easily, especially at 170. Like I said, Conor's fought at 170 a couple times. Dustin hasn't. So, just that familiarity with that weight class already, given the prior experience as well, I think Conor comes out, flashes him early, and gets him out of there. I don't think that's a very competitive fight.
Well, I would like to see it at 155 because if there is a chance that we could see Conor versus Nurmagomedov again, this would be fight 30. If he indeed gets past Justin Gaethje this weekend, then that would be the coup de grace, if you will, for Conor McGregor. For Khabib Nurmagomedov, given the fact that the only other person that we would want to see Khabib Nurmagomedov fight would be GSP, and GSP is like, I kind of like being retired. And then Tony Ferguson, which we don't know what's going on with Tony Ferguson right now. So in coming back to to the audience, what we're seeing is that, remember when Dana White said that Conor fighting Cowboy would be at 155 and then they fought at 170? Conor likes fighting at 170 because I think he doesn't have to cut much weight, which means he can kind of, he doesn't have to cut much weight, and it's an easier weight for him to make. He feels very comfortable there. I would hope that they fight at 155 because I think that's the only way he can get back in at Khabib Nurmagomedov. I
kind of likes fighting smaller guys at 170. He doesn't want the real 170 smoke.
No, because those guys are really 185ers who can make 170, right?
Or 205ers who can make 170.
Right.
Anthony Rumble Johnson used to fight at 170.
Right.
Can you imagine that? Conor versus Rumble.
Yeah.
You can. How does that go?
No, I saw that fight. I saw the fight when he fought. What's the Spaniard's name now? Oh man, let's see. I've got to look it up now. Charlie Brenneman, that's his name. He fought Charlie Brenneman and just broke Charlie. Poor Charlie. It's kind of like Charlie's got a Gumdrop Mountain. You don't know about Gumdrop Mountain. No. You got to watch Charlie and the Gumdrop Mountain. But anyway, Anthony Rumble Johnson broke Charlie Brenneman at 170, and this dude ended up fighting Andrei Arlovski at heavyweight. So, yeah, fighting smaller guys at 170 or getting down to, that opens up a whole can of worms about how weight cutting should change in the sport. I fundamentally believe that we should change weight cutting in the sport. We'll have to address that at a later date. But if they do have the fights at 155, then it qualifies as a legitimate case for Conor McGregor getting back into the title contention conversation.
All right.
Dustin Poirier fought Khabib Nurmagomedov. That was he got smoked.
Oh, you were about to say that was what? That was competitive?
Well, no, what I was going to say is that was fight win number 28 for Khabib Nurmagomedov. Fight 27 was Conor McGregor. Those two fighting, those guys were at the type of their division. Now with him fighting Justin Gaethje, Tony Ferguson is kind of out. who is there left to fight for the title at 155? It makes sense that the winner of Conor McGregor versus Poirier would be in the conversation, especially if Conor won. You know, maybe you don't want to do it again if it's Poirier, because Poirier did get smoked. Yeah, and
Conor got smoked and choked.
He did, but the fans want to see that fight again. The McGregor army is strong.
You telling the truth there?
So yeah. Let's skip over to boxing a little bit. I don't know if you heard. Goodness. I don't know if you heard that the that the world was shaken when Teofimo Lopez shocked Vasily Lomachenko.
Did you get to see this fight at all?
I didn't get to see it at all. I just heard everybody's blowing me up about it, though. Everybody was talking to me about it.
So I shut UFC on Saturday night in order to watch Lomachenko, because he is one of my favorite fighters. This was a very, very interesting fight. The first 5 rounds, all how do you pronounce the name? Teofimo?
Yeah. Lopez.
All him. Lomo might have snuck 1 round out of the first 5. But literally, Lomo did not even throw punches the first 5 rounds. He's like Cowboy in a way. He needs those first 5-6 rounds in order to just warm up and be in the fight. Now, don't get me wrong. He didn't take any damage those first 5-6 rounds. Like everything was blocked. Everything was nice and tight, but just literally no offense from him whatsoever. Round 6, it's like somebody turned the light switch on and Lomo came alive, man. He put on a clinic for the last 5-6 rounds. For real. Like, it was all him. I think the 12th round was competitive. Some people would give it to Lopez. Some people might give it to Lomachenko. I probably would have given that round to Lopez. All in all, I think this fight probably should have been a draw, but the judges did not quite see it that way. One of the judges had the fight scored like 119 to, I can't remember what it was, but it's like outrageous. It's like, yeah. But overall, it was a great fight. I just wish Lomo could get started earlier, man. You can't play catch up with guys at this level. I literally just had this conversation with some guys from my gym that are in fight camp right now. On Sunday, I woke up early Sunday morning, went and got a workout in, texted all the guys, said, hey, you know, where y'all at? Where's your workout in? You know, don't let coach be the first one to beat you working out. And somebody responded like, oh, I got all day to catch up with you. And I was like, that's what Lomo thought too. I got all day to catch up with you. And it didn't happen. It didn't work out well for him. You can't play catch up with guys at this level, man.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that I always say, and it holds true for MMA, but the same thing works for boxing as well. You know, it's you know, give everything you got in that first round, and then fight every other round like you lost the first one.
Lost the last one.
Yeah, yep. and if you do that, it'll be hard for you to lose, because that means you're giving it all, you're leaving it all in the ring. And so when you're fighting and you're like, I'm gonna get him, I'm gonna wait, that's a dangerous strategy. And we talk about it a lot for those fighters who like to fight off their back, right? It's like, if you can pull that submission, great. But if you're not successful with that submission, you are losing points because you're on the bottom and you're going to have to play catch up. And if you get to that last round and you're down 3 rounds or 4 rounds, you're going to have to knock the guy out or you're going to lose the fight. Same thing for boxing. Once you get halfway through, if you haven't kept up, then you're going to have to finish the fight because the numbers are against you. It's math. It's simple math at that point.
Yeah. I hated it for Lomo, man, because, I mean, he is like one of the most deserving champs ever. But I also feel like this will bring a renewed effort in boxing in some of the weight classes that we're just not used to seeing it in. You know, Lomo was so dominant in his weight class that, you know, people were kind of losing interest. You know, this guy had over 300 amateur fights, lost 1. I think in his pro career, he had 1 loss prior to this. And so it was like, when you tune into a Lomo fight, you were expecting to see a clinic being put on. That's not what happened on Saturday night until round 6. Round 6, yeah, the clinic started. But
Yeah.
it's a good fight, man.
So
I was really surprised. I didn't really know Lopez all that well, but he put on a great showing.
So here's the question that I have for you. Do you think that some of these dominant champions need an unfortunate loss to reinvigorate the hunger to win again? I mean, when we go back to one of the goats of the welterweight division, George St. Pierre, when he lost his fight and got knocked out by Matt Serra, it started him on a path where he never lost again. Even though people say he might have lost to Hendricks, but
excuse me, I like to say no. It's not like I'm looking at Lomo and he's lost something. I heard a lot of other commentators making comments about that, like, oh, Lomo has aged. Oh, these things are going on with him or whatever. And that's not what I saw that night. I saw a fighter who has always been known to be a slow starter, pick things up in round 6 and put on a clinic. If Lomo could figure out a way to start round 1 the way he starts round 6, Lopez would have been out of there quickly already, because I mean, he was touching this guy up bad. Granted, Lopez had a great 12th round, but he knew he had to stand up if he was going to get that win, because he understood this fight was close. And it was a great fight, man. If you get a chance, go back and watch it. Literally, the first 5 rounds were all Lopez, and maybe one in there could be tossed out to Vasily. The last 6 rounds were all Vasily, and round 12 was up for grabs.
Wow. So you had mentioned Paulo Costa earlier. Guess who's running afoul of Paulo Costa? A guy by the name of
our good friend, the 170er that turned into a heavyweight,
Anthony Rumble Johnson. And so
Rumble, young man, Rumble.
Yeah, so apparently Anthony Johnson's talking about, like, hey, listen, you talked all this smack about Israel Adesanya leading up to this fight. You get finished, and yes, he does hump you after the fight, and that's inappropriate, but you kind of had it coming. That's kind of what Anthony Johnson's position was. And of course, Paulo Costa didn't appreciate that. And so we talk about people, going 10-9 on a Twitter beef, and Anthony Rumble Johnson, I want to say, basically got the finish with his response on Twitter. If you guys haven't seen it, I don't know, since we run a PG-13 podcast.
Say it.
But the point is that because of the motion that Israel Adesanya did on Paulo Costa,
the motion,
the physical motion, the pelvic thrusts that Israel Adesanya did, Anthony Rumble Johnson is now calling Paulo Costa loose booty.
Loose booty.
So I consider that a knockout on the Twitter beef. There's no coming back for Paulo Costa there.
He said something else to him, like, I respect you, but make sure you know your role, player, or something like.
Yeah. But it's tough for fighters like Paulo Costa, because English is not his first language.
Well, don't be stepping in the kitchen if you ain't ready for that heat.
Well, true, but like you don't want to be coming off of a loss and not English not being your first language, and then getting into a Twitter beef, like,
especially with Rumble Johnson, who you easily could wind up matched up against.
Well,
because he could
make 185, but they said he's going to come back. He don't even
need to make 185. Paulo Costa walks around at 205 or 220. Like, they can fight it there at weight right now.
Yeah, I don't think he don't want that smoke. Like, Anthony Johnson,
Daniel Cormier said he has never been hit as hard as Anthony Rumble Johnson hit him. He's like, John Jones, nope. Alexander Gustafsson, nope. Name somebody else he fought. Big Knock, nope. Yeah. Anybody else? Nope.
Stipe Miocic.
Anthony Rumble,
no.
Yeah, Stipe Miocic, nope. Anthony Rumble Johnson,
yep.
He knocked him off his feet.
Yeah. Well, that's what Kelechi. It's one of Kelechi's favorite images. Is Anthony Rumble Johnson landing what sounded like a baseball bat on Daniel Cormier. Daniel Cormier falls over, stands up, and falls over again.
He got knocked off his feet. Literally, his feet flew from under him.
Yeah, they say that when you're losing the striking, it turns you into a wrestler. Cormier turned into a wrestler. We know he got wrestling skills, but he was looking to strike with Anthony Johnson, and then he got hit, and he's like, "Nope, you want some of this, old man?" Nope.
No.
Speaking of Israel Adesanya, he said he was flattered by George St. Pierre's calling him the perfect fighter after the Paulo Costa thing. Says goats recognize goats. I think that's a really nice compliment as well. Definitely Israel Adesanya is someone to that is enjoyable to watch because he doesn't fit the stereotypical body style of a champion fighter. He's so thin and wiry, but he's so elusive, so quick, and with that precision that he talks about, generates a lot of power, and he's finishing people left and right. So great compliment from George St. Pierre. And that's why I know that George St. Pierre, he's not coming back. He's just enjoying watching the fights. He's like, whoo, I'm glad I'm not fighting that guy. Woo, I'm glad I'm not fighting that guy.
Would you like to see a GSP and Adesanya fight?
No.
Why not?
Because GSP, first of all, GSP walks around at 190.
Okay.
So
what do you think Israel walks around at?
Oh, I don't know. But
he has problem making 185. His last weigh-in, he weighed in at 183.
I don't know what to say, but George St. Pierre is a 170 fighter. He's clearly a 170 fighter. Israel Adesanya has the frame for a 205er, right? So
my goodness,
he's tall. He's like 6'1". Okay. George St. Pierre's like 5'9". He's like your height. And so
you call him a little bitty boy.
I know. No, I'm not calling either one of y'all because y'all both can work. I'm just saying George St. Pierre damn near killed himself trying to make 185 to fight Michael Bisping. So he can't make that weight once he starts training for fights. He can't keep that 190 the weight.
He can't put that kind of mass on.
Right. So I wouldn't want to see him fight at 185. Likewise, he doesn't think that he can make 155 to make a good fight with Khabib Nurmagomedov. So
he needs a 165 fight, huh?
He would have to do a 165 catch weight if we wanted to see that fight. But I don't think anyone wants to see a fight that's not for a title.
With GSP?
Would you want to watch GSP versus Nurmagomedov without anything on the line?
Dude, there are so many GSP fights I would love to see. Like, even now. GSP and Nate. GSP and Jorge Masvidal. GSP and Khabib. GSP and... Pick somebody out of that 155 division is on fire, or the 170 division. Hell, if we talk to 170, GSP and Conor. There are so many fights out there for GSP, man. Like,
yeah, well, I don't think he wants to fight anymore. I think he's done. And you know what they say?
All right, Dana White.
If he's listen, I'd rather you call me Dana White than Stephen A. Smith.
I forgot about that. My bad, bro.
Anyway, Megan O'Leary, that UFC just released a kind of a documentary about the Davidson Figueiredo fight where her husband, Joseph Benavidez, got finished. And so people were asking whether or not she was going to watch it. And she's like, no, like, why would I watch that? That was like, that's me. I lived my husband having his dream shattered.
Nightmare. Yeah.
Why would I want to watch a documentary about it?
And she makes a good point. Way to support your man too.
Yeah. Well, I think that it's great that she is clearly in his corner, and it can't be easy to watch. I would assume it can't be easy to watch, your husband or your spouse, for that matter, your significant other, get get finished the way that he did, and to know that he has tried to climb that mountain multiple times. I mean, dude got finished by DJ. I think he got finished twice by DJ. I think he got choked out and then got knocked out. Now he got knocked out again, and then I think the rematch, I think he got finished again. It's like, sometimes you just don't get the ring. Sometimes you don't get the belt, and it was not in the cards for you, but you still had a great career. And, I don't know what he's planning on doing, but I don't think there's too many times left that he's going to get an at-bat. So we'll have to see what happens there. So we talked about Chris Cyborg. She headlined Bellator 249, fought Arlene B&Co, and Chris Cyborg choked her out in the second round.
Have you ever heard of Arlene B&Co before?
Nope.
I'd like to go back and maybe get some info on her.
The challenge is that there just aren't enough 145 females.
I think they are out there. We just aren't seeing them.
Then there's not enough.
No. All right. The UFC isn't actively recruiting 145 females.
Nope.
Because guess what? Cyborg ain't there no more.
Right.
Go look over in Invicta. There's a whole 145 women's class. Several other organizations that highlight female fighters. There are 145ers there. 145 is the division for female fighting. We just don't see it in the UFC because we've got 115, 125, 135, and they seem a lot more, TV savvy. A 145 woman means this is a woman who's probably cutting down from 165. She's not the most, what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah, what is the word you're looking for?
Our eyes aren't as interested in a 165 woman dropping a 145 as they might be in a 125 or dropping a 115. I'm just being real with you. Chris Cyborg is not the most aesthetic looking woman that people want to see. She's one of the most decorated strikers on the planet. Don't get me wrong. There's a difference though. When you think about female fights and what the casual wants to watch, are they interested in seeing someone who looks like Chris Cyborg, or are they interested in seeing someone who looks like Paige Van Sant or Rose Namajunas or JJ or Valentina Shevchenko? You get what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I definitely understand
women
that.
are out there. I'm telling you, I see it all the time. There are women wishing for these fights at 145. They're not getting them.
But my point is, incidentally, the next fight that Amanda Nunes is fighting, she's fighting Megan Anderson. That fight will be at 145. So Amanda Nunes is defending her 145 belt. But what I want you to talk about something here. That 145 belt. How many people are in their division in the UFC? 3. 2. Who's the third one?
Okay. I thought there was one other 145er in there still. Jermaine Durandamy was still in there.
Jermaine has been fighting at 135. So has Holly Holm. Like, they can make 145, but they've chosen to stay at 135 because that's where more of the competition is. There are so few people that fight at 145 at featherweight, women's featherweight in the UFC that I don't even think that they have it listed on the website. Octavia Spencer? That's an actress. What's her name? What's her first name?
We got off-camera help there. Who's this we looking at to?
This is the audience. The Combat Sports Talk audience is dope, man. They know what we are. They have the information. Her name is Felicia Spencer.
I forgot about. Yeah, she's another game opponent at 145. Absolutely.
Yes, but it's still light. Like, in order to have
the UFC, it's like, what I'm saying to you is, outside of that, you remember how a moment ago you were talking about how LFA and all these other organizations out there, these women are out there. They just haven't been brought into the UFC. And you can't just say they're not UFC caliber at this point, because there is no UFC caliber at 145.
But that's not my argument. My argument isn't that there aren't women who can walk into the octagon and fight weighing 145 pounds. Sure, there are a lot of women who weigh 145 pounds who may call themselves MMA fighters.
That's not what I said, but
You
thank
do
you for taking it there.
no. The point that I am making is that when you stand them on the other side of the ring from Chris Cyborg,
Or
you ain't
Amanda
got no
Nunes.
competition. There is no competition for Chris Cyborg.
I'm gonna disagree with you.
There are women who can stand across the ring and qualify, but they will get dropped. Like, it will not be competitive. Find somebody. Like, I would challenge.
I can take Chris Cyborg. I think she had a fight against. I think her name was Amanda Byers. This was a stand-up fight, so I don't think it was Invicta. I think it was like a lion fight.
Chris Cyborg fought a kickboxing fight, and it was like she took it on. I want to say it wasn't a full camp, but she went, and it was just like kind of an exhibition, and Chris Cyborg got whooped.
Oh,
but
okay.
Chris Cyborg, bring her in an octagon and see if this kickboxer can take some jiu-jitsu. Because Chris Cyborg choked out Blenko in the second round. I mean, she submitted her.
Mm-hmm.
So when you got somebody with knockout power, and you got somebody who's a black belt in jiu-jitsu in the form of Chris Cyborg, like, the only fight that I really want to see for Chris Cyborg is the rematch with Amanda Nunes, because I think that fight was a fluke. I don't believe that was a legitimate finish for Amanda Nunes. She rocked. Her eyes were closed. Go back and watch it. When Amanda Nunes rocks Chris Cyborg, her eyes are closed. She was just as shocked as Chris Cyborg.
We should go back and watch together and like do a fight companion on that one.
We will do it. We will do it.
All right.
And I'm gonna show you that Amanda Nunes was not throwing technical strikes. She was swinging for the fences.
All right.
Scared. I said it. Yeah, this is what I'm passionate about. So I do wish that Chris Cyborg had made up with Dana White and stayed in the UFC so that we could have seen that rematch, because there's really no one else that I think Chris Cyborg and Amanda Nunes at 145. I don't think there's anybody else in the UFC that are at their level. And so I would have wanted to see that again. Anytime I see a fight that only goes 30 seconds or something like that, when they're two highly decorated athletes like Amanda Nunes and Chris Cyborg are, that's not the natural outcome. What? Why are you looking at me like that?
I hadn't heard you begging for that Jose Aldo and Conor McGregor rematch.
What, you mean?
Oh, I love how you dip off to the side.
No, look over my shoulder right there.
Dodging that. Yeah, I see what's up there.
I will tell you this: if we can go back and listen to what I have to say, we can go back to the tapes. And I was saying that a 13-second fight between Jose Aldo and Conor McGregor doesn't tell us anything about what those two fighters in the octagon actually can do. I mean, the same thing I said it whenever Jorge Masvidal knocked out Ben Askren in 5 seconds. Did we see a fight? I mean, yeah, fights can end that quickly, but you don't get to see what happens when Jorge Masvidal, a pure striker, has to fight, Ben Askren, a pure wrestler, and they actually get to bang for 2-3 rounds. Now, we saw what happened with Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal. The fight ended earlier, but it's like they should have kept going. No, we saw enough of that fight to know what would happen every other time Nate Diaz and Jorge Masvidal come into the ring. We saw enough fight to know what happens. We got to see what happens when Daniel Cormier and Stipe Miocic. We got enough of those rounds to know that we don't need to watch that again. And in honor of my friend John Keys, who hopefully is sleeping right now, we don't need to see John Jones versus Daniel Cormier 3. We know what's going to happen.
Would you be interested in seeing Jose versus Conor again?
Not anymore.
Jose's he's fallen too far off since that fight.
Having Conor now fighting at 155 and 170, and Jose Aldo going down to 135.
And losing.
and losing there. And I mean, I believe he lost to Marlon Moraes. But you know, still him losing there. Peter Yan just whooped him. I think they're too far off now. If they would have scheduled that fight back, you know, immediately after, I think I would have been interested in that fight, and I probably have said that before, but not now. It's too much time's passed.
Okay.
I want to talk about Khamzat Chimaev. I mean, he's kind of the guy that everybody is interested in. He's the new hype train in the UFC, and everybody wants to fight him. And so he's basically saying, give me someone to fight, because he's been finishing people left and right, but none of them have been ranked. There was a really interesting conversation on one of the Facebook MMA groups about whether or not he's legit, you know, or if he just needs to get tougher talent. And I think the answer is both. I think he is legit, but I think he needs tougher talent.
His last fight was against Gerald
Meerschaert. Yeah. And he, you know, one punch, finished him in 17. Well, not 17 seconds. Was it 17 seconds? I think it's 17 seconds.
Yeah, it was something like that. Dude,
you know,
he's hanging out with Dana now. Like, he's best buds with Dana. They're Twittering and Instagramming together. Like,
oh, they're sitting next to each other at the fight night on Saturday. So when Jimmy Croot finished his fight, he jumped over the cage, went talked to Dana, and you can see Khamzat Chimaev sitting right next to Dana. So, you know,
there was some other fight that night where somebody was challenging Khamzat.
Yes, a guy by the name of Neil Magny.
That Neil just fought on that fight?
No. He didn't just fight, but Neil Magny threw his name in the ring, and Khamzat Chimaev has said yes. That's gonna be your next fight. So they're looking for a challenge on December 19th. Neil Magny versus Khamzat Chimaev. I can't wait. Like, you guys have tried to sell me on Neil Magny's return, because you know I've been picking against Neil Magny since he lost to Rafael dos Anjos.
You've been treating him like you used to treat Angela Overkill Hill.
Yeah, I have. You know, and
you claim it too.
Oh, yes. Like, I will be first. Like, at some point, I am going to have to say to Angela Hill, like, listen, I was like your biggest hater, and now I'm on the bandwagon, right?
When we do this, can we please have like some slow background music playing,
hey,
like some
girl.
Sade or something?
I'll be like, hey girl, I just want to let you know I was
Cherish
your biggest
hater.
But now you've won me over. Yeah, not to forget that Kevin Holland also called out Khamzat Chimaev, because remember, Khamzat Chimaev treated Kevin Holland like the help.
Yeah, I remember that. Hey, speaking of, I spoke to Coach Derwin today, man.
Oh,
he says hello. Yeah.
All right, well, cool. You know, one of the things that I was gonna put. Oh, I did have it on the run sheet since you brought up Coach Derwin. You know, when we interviewed Coach Derwin, and shout out to Coach Derwin of Lamb 4, and the Lamb Striking Systems, and he is the coach of Kevin Holland. And
well, he told me currently him and Kevin aren't partnering together. It's not that there's not room for it in the future, but right now they're not working together.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate.
I think everything's going to be okay. I think this is just one of those natural progressions that, you know, leadership and mentorship and things like this take. You know, they may be back together here in the near future. You just never know. So I wouldn't take anything negative from it. He had nothing negative to say about Kevin by any means. And from what I understand, Kevin has nothing negative to say about him. So I don't think it's that kind of party. This is not bad blood or anything like that, but they're just not working together right now.
Yeah, it's just that what I remember from the interview, and if you guys didn't see the Coach Derwin Lamb interview, please go back and watch it. You can find it on our website under the interview section, or you can find it on our YouTube page. But go back and watch that interview with Coach Derwin, because he talked about one of the hardest things about being a coach is having your heart broken. about training a fighter and bringing a fighter to this new summit of this mountain that they've been trying to climb for all these years, and then having that fighter go and work with someone else, because there's really it can be a thankless job, you know. And one of the stories that he talked about was the relationship he had with James Vick, which is another one of our hometown heroes, the Texecutioner, who recently got cut from the UFC. You know, and so, you know, we talked to Coach Derwin about how that affected him, almost caused him to stop coaching. Because when we
talked about that this morning, man, because I don't know if I tell you, I just recently went through a very similar bout of that. And so it was really good to have him as a resource to like, hey, man, this is what I got going on. And I don't even know how I feel about it to some degree. You know, it's like, wow, like, you know, it is what it is, though. But he told me keep trudging forward. Hey, I got 6 fighters in camp right now preparing for fights in January. So like, you know, I don't have time to yeah. And so it was very good talking to him this morning. It really lifted my spirits.
All right. Well, you know, when you talk to him again, definitely send him my love. You know, we got to get him and, you know, Coach Carlos back on the show. And, you know,
I got some other interviews that I'm itching for us to do, man. I'm glad you and I got a chance to do the show alone tonight. So now I know I got you cornered and we can talk afterwards. And I'm like, hey, look, this is what I got. This is what I got. This is what I got. Give me some dates.
Let's keep lining up coaches. I like talking to the coaches. I mean, talking to fighters is great. I don't just
have coaches at this point, man.
Talking to fighters is great too.
The Ronin wants to jump in. Peter Stananik.
No,
TJ
I don't want to
the
talk to him.
Man.
I don't want to talk to him.
Why you don't want to talk to him?
Why don't I want to talk to? Yes, I don't want to talk to. I don't want to talk to the Ronin because I picked.
Oh, you picked against him.
Yes.
Oh, you definitely are being the engineer for this show.
We had the bet going.
Yes. Oh,
you forgot about
me.
that.
Let me hit him up tonight and make sure he knows. Dude, I need you to come on. We need to give Brian all the smoke.
Oh man, yeah.
But another interview I got lined up for us, man, is TJ the Thinking Man. Man, I think I've been sending you some of his video clips. You guys don't watch enough Muay Thai, man. Like, this is one of the most decorated strikers out there, man. If you look at his style, the way he fights, and a couple of weekends ago, I actually got to see his son fight, his 9-year-old child fight. And his son put on a clinic and a show.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and then what other interview I have coming up for us? Oh, Coach Will over at Fury Kickboxing. Promoter for Fury Kickboxing, as well as he's a coach over at Eastside Fight Club and SIN Plano. So yeah, man, I got some interviews we need to get lined up here, bro.
Let's get this popping. Let's get them lined up. We can definitely do it.
I think I also told you I'd like for us to maybe interview one of my new students. He came to me from TJ. His name's Philip Washington. Philip Washington Jr. Very interesting young man, and he has a podcast of his own out there. Called Ask Philip. So all right. I'd like you to check that out when you get a chance.
Definitely will. All right. Well, the one thing that we haven't talked about yet, which we need to get into, is the fight card. This is the fight card. This is where we talk about the fights that are coming up on Saturday night, and it is the end of Fight Island Frenzy, the 5 weeks of fighting. UFC 254, Khabib versus Gaethje, Saturday, October 24th, 2020 at the Flash Forum on Yas Island in Abu Dhabi. This is a pay-per-view, and just so that you know, if you are watching this right now and you are hearing the words that are coming out of my mouth, that fight starts at 2 p.m. Eastern on Saturday.
Yeah, what's up with the time change on these, man?
I do not know why they changed the time, because it really sucks, because I'm going to be coaching flag football at the time.
What time will that be in Russia?
I have no idea.
I bet you that might have a lot to do with this.
Yeah, I don't know, but I mean, I'm sure with Khabib fighting, they said that when he arrived in Abu Dhabi, it was like he was a king. So Perhaps that's that's the reason why they decided to hold it at 2 p.m. Eastern. But it's just going to be really hard for me because I need the fights to happen at night so that I can get all the family cleared out. I can get the wife taken care of, everything like that, so that I can sit down and watch the fights in peace with my wings. But it's unlikely that I'm going to be able to watch
wings
the
from
fights
these days.
I don't even want to tell you because if I tell you, you're going to laugh at me, and I don't need to be laughed at right now.
I would not laugh at you, bro.
Man, I'm getting them from KFC, dude.
I'm going to take that statement back that I just said.
Yeah.
Bruh, really?
Yeah, that's where I'm getting it from.
Right.
Like, the last pay-per-view.
Maybe they know something I don't know.
No, I just, for me, well, I don't know why we're talking about wings right now when we could be talking about these fights coming up. But I don't like all the wet sauce, to be honest. So when I'm getting them takeout, I like them to be dry. So I get them from KFC or I get them from Pluckers whenever I really, really want them. Pluckers, not a sponsor. Okay. Neither is KFC. Right. So but if they want to sponsor us.
We were talking about time in Russia and why this fight might be happening at 2 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So it is midnight or almost midnight here in the States right now. We are what, Central Time?
Yep.
On Central. And right now in Russia, it is 7:56 a.m.
Oh, look at that. So 2 p.m. Eastern is 10 p.m. in Russia.
Kind of makes sense.
That's coming from you got to give me the pronunciation because Lepidolite, I don't know, but that's who's giving me all of this great information. So shout out to you. He is hooking us up with information about what's going on. But it may he says you may be right that in order for the Russians to watch this fight, they're doing it at 2 p.m. our time.
It wouldn't surprise me at all. I think the pay-per-view numbers probably out of Russia for that fight will probably be bigger than out of the States even.
Perhaps. Well, I just started thinking
that long pregnant pause.
Well, because you know what I'm thinking, right? Yeah. All right, I'm gonna say this: if I end up poisoned, bro, no, I didn't do it myself. All right. Vladimir Putin. Every time Khabib wins, he goes and sees the president of Russia. So it very well could be Putin's like, listen, I want to watch this fight.
This at 10 o'clock.
Make this at 10 o'clock, or else I will make sure that you do not have Khabib coming out of my country. And so they're like, okay, all right, fine, whatever. Americans can suck it on this one. Yeah, I mean, it's inconvenient for me, right? Because my Saturday afternoons is not made for, it's not made for Michelob. It's not made for watching UFC. So let's get into these fights. We got 6 fights on the card. Magomed Ankalaev is fighting Ion Cutelaba.
It's a rematch, isn't it?
I believe it is because I think that one of them got injured or sick or something like that. May have gotten positive test for COVID. And so they finally got back together.
Maybe I'm wrong. I thought they fought before. I thought this is like their second meeting.
All right.
Okay.
Lauren Murphy versus Lilia Shakirova.
I know Murphy. Hadn't heard of this other young lady, so might need to do some research on her before I say yay, nay, or whatever.
Well, we're gonna do flash fight picks on the last 3 fights of the card.
Okay.
So Phil Hawes versus Jacob Malkoun. We got Walt Harris versus Alexander Volkov. Robert Whittaker versus Jared Cannonier. And then the main event of the evening, Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Justin Gaethje. All right. And so this gives us, if Khabib Nurmagomedov wins this fight, it brings us one fight closer to that magic 30-0 that he says he's going to retire at. And so, we'll see what happens. Hopefully, legacy goes out the window and it becomes about money so that he can stay in and keep fighting.
I don't know, man. I think Gaethje is going to give him some problems.
All right,
I think Gaethje pulls this out.
Oh, so you're making your pick now? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm making that pick now. I think Gaethje shocks the world and walks away with that belt, man.
All right. Well, we're gonna do this out of order then. I am going to, rule number 1, and for those of you playing the Combat Sports Talk drinking game, this is your time to drink. Rule number 1 is never bet against the Russians, and so I'm going to stay on the Khabib Nurmagomedov train. I think he gets it done. I think it's a close fight. I think it goes all 5 rounds, and this will be the first time that it actually won't be the first time because he has lost the fight. But Justin Gaethje, I think will make it competitive, but I think that Khabib Nurmagomedov comes out on top. John Keys did send us his picks. He picked Khabib Nurmagomedov as well, and we got Scott Brown in the audience tonight, and he says Khabib exposes Gaethje's great wrestling with his trip game. So there you go. Let's go back up to the top. Walt Harris versus Alexander Volkov. Walt Harris's last showing was against I think it was Alistair Overeem, right? Mm-hmm. And he should have beaten. He should have beaten Alistair Overeem, but the ref didn't call the fight. The fight goes on. Harris gasses out, and Overeem gets the finish. Now he's up against Alexander Volkov, an outstanding heavyweight kickboxer. What do you think?
Volkov.
You think Volkov?
Yep.
I'm gonna go with Harris.
What ethnicity is Volkov?
I don't believe he's Russian, but maybe he's Eastern European.
Okay.
Don't make me have to change my thing.
I'm drinking just in case.
He's Russian. Dadgummit.
Yep.
Rule number 1, never bet against the Russian. I'm going with Alexander Volkov. Walt Harris. John Keys has Walt Harris. Yeah.
Did KC send his picks in?
KC doesn't send his picks in until after the fights are over.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to do that while you're out on a date.
KC will be like, when we come back and we do the results show, he'll be like, yeah, I picked him. We'll be like, nobody has any proof that you picked that guy. Mm-hmm. Robert Whittaker versus Jared Cannonier.
Dude. Interesting fight on paper. I think Cannonier walks through Whittaker real quick.
The thing is, Robert Whittaker is a complete fighter. He is. He brings such a interesting game into the octagon that I struggle to see that he is going to be standing there waiting to get punched by Jared Cannonier.
And Israel Adesanya is a one-trick pony, some people would say, who has nothing but striking. And what did Whittaker do differently with him?
It was bad.
Complete fighter. You just said you hyped him up. He's a complete fighter.
Whittaker is a complete fighter. The dude does everything well.
What did his complete fight skill set do against Izzy Adesanya?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I thought this guy's name was Jared Cannonier.
I'm just pointing out flaws in your logic right now, sir. We're having a debate. You like the debate, right?
You're using MMA math, though. You're saying, because
you didn't
Robert Whittaker.
You like the debate, right?
Robert Whittaker lost to Israel Adesanya, ergo he will lose to Jared Cannonier. That math doesn't work.
My theory here is that you're saying that Whittaker is a complete fighter, and that complete fighters tend to wind up on the winning end, especially against guys who tend to be maybe one-trick ponies or only have a specific skill set.
I never called Jared Cannonier a one-trick pony. I never said he had a
specific... Tell me what other tricks he has. What is he?
He wants to knock people out.
Okay.
Doesn't he?
I don't know. I'm just asking,
but
you might think he's a complete fighter.
We listen, we don't have to dispute the fact that Robert Whittaker is a complete fighter. He is.
I agree.
He's a complete fighter. So that is indisputable. We're not disputing that. Jared Cannonier. What I said was, I don't see Robert Whittaker standing around and getting lit up by Jared Cannonier.
I didn't see him doing it against Izzy, and that's what happened.
But it's different.
Please tell me how.
Because Israel Adesanya is a different fighter. He is a different type of fighter than Jared Cannonier.
He's a striker.
They are not the same.
He's a striker.
They are not the same.
Okay,
They're different types of strikers.
How similar they are.
I hadn't even made my pick yet. I hadn't even made my pick yet.
Your pick's gonna be
Jared Cannonier, of course.
I thought so.
I gotta set it up though. You're like trying to back me into a corner, paint me into a corner here. No, I'm picking Jared Cannonier, dude. Like I like Robert Whittaker. It makes me sad to see him get beaten because
he's got some bad matchups. Like
I love Robert Whittaker. I love watching him fight.
He's a good guy too, man. Like you know what I mean? Like he's one of those guys. Like how can you not like him?
Right. But but at the same time, Jared Cannonier, like he just puts people away. Like
Izzy even called him the dark horse of the division. He's like, this is the guy that's a problem.
So yeah, maybe it's because I secretly want to see the Cannonier Adesanya fight. But yeah, I'm going with Cannonier. I'm rooting for him.
Whittaker says the Cannonier and Adesanya fight is an easy fight, but Izzy, he says that he thinks Cannonier So there was some back and forth on social media and or an interview where Izzy said, "Hey, Cannonier beats Whittaker, and then I fight Cannonier." And Whittaker came back and said, "Of course he wants to fight Cannonier because that's the easier fight for him."
I think that's a dumb statement by Whittaker because Israel Adesanya lit him up in the first round. Like the dude was staggering back to his stool at the end of the first round. Whittaker didn't make it past the second round. Like that seems pretty easy.
Is real, and maybe Whittaker just hadn't watched the fight over. Maybe
I don't know.
Thinks it was competitive.
I don't know. I feel like if you can't make it, if you have tape of you getting staggered by Israel Adesanya, you can't say that you're a harder fight than someone else. I just don't feel like you can say that.
And who you're about to fight and find out for sure.
Yeah, like, dude, just don't speak on those things. Like, keep silent on that. Scott Brown says that Cannonier has 4 inches of reach on Whittaker, and that Cannonier is sort of old and was KO'd early by Reyes. Yes, but you can't count the Reyes fight, because that fight was not. I don't believe that fight was at 185. I think that fight was at 205.
It was 205.
And
he's also fought at heavyweight.
And you really got to go back and watch that Reyes fight again against Cannonier, because Cannonier was winning that fight until he got caught. And so, yes, I'm not taking anything from Dominic Reyes. Dominic Reyes is a great fighter. If you really want to know, I felt like he beat John Jones. But at the same time, Cannonier fighting at 185.
Playing the drinking game, please drink right now, because Ryan inadvertently mentioned John Jones.
No. I didn't mention John Jones and another fighter whose name, whose initials also could stand for the District of Columbia, which is I didn't make that. So you didn't. That's a false drink. You broke the rules. Anyway, follow us on social media. On Instagram, I'm at Combat Sports Talk.
I am on Instagram at darkside _Muay Thai _.
You can find us on our website at www.combatsportstalk.com. And you can find us on all your favorite podcasting platforms. You can pick up some of the older episodes, or just want to hear about what we're talking about in the previous week. We're on all of these up here. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Periscope, and Spotify. And so we also have merch. You can see the actually this way. You can see the Combat Sports Talk shirt that George is wearing. We got those. So if you want to sport your Combat Sports Talk love, you can absolutely do that. It's on Amazon. You can go to our website for that. I want to send a shout out to MMA Junkie, MMA Fighting, MMA Mania, Bloody Elbow, and the Intelligent Defense Discussion Group on Facebook, where a lot of the conversations that we have on the show first began. On behalf of George G Money Stallworth, my name is Ryan Smith, reminding you to keep your hands up, keep your chin tucked, and throw bombs. We'll catch you next time.